magical beings, welcome or welcome back. My name is Sarah and I am the Woodland Witch. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you my personal experiences with hexes, curses, and the evil eye. I see baneful magic, curses, and hexes as kind of neutral. I don't believe they are necessarily bad or good, but I do think that they can be necessary, especially if you look at the historical uses of this type of magic and why it was needed. But whether or not you incorporate baneful magic into your practice, it is something that very much exists. So today I'm going to share with you ways to identify baneful magic, hexes, curses, evil eye, as well as how to combat it. To preface, this is my own personal experience with identifying and combating these energies. Some of these remedies that I talk about are going to be very specific to my folk and ancestral traditions, primarily with an Irish and Scottish belief. My hopes are that this is going to guide you in the right direction, give you some insight, and kind of help you learn how to identify and combat these things within your own craft. So there are 2 times in my years of practicing witchcraft that I believe I was successfully hit with baneful magic. Both of those times were very vulnerable moments in my life, and I think that can play a very big role on whether or not baneful magic is successful or not. When we are vulnerable, our guard is down. We are more susceptible to allowing energy in, putting more energy out, energies that don't necessarily belong to us. I think we can even do this subconsciously as well, especially in this vulnerable state. Not even fully registering the energies that are coming in and out. I know when I just moved to this new home, my guard was down a lot. I was very busy. I was very overwhelmed and stressed with things that were going on. Most of the wards and protections that I crafted at that apartment did not come with me to this home, mainly because I craft my wards and protections to be very, very specific to the location. Things like that can definitely leave a door open for unwanted energies to pass through. If you're not keeping up with your spiritual hygiene, things like that can really impact how baneful magic is going to affect you, whether it is successful or not. I think in moments where we aren't so vulnerable, we have a lot more control over what passes in and out, what attaches to us or not. And that all has to do with setting energetic boundaries and being really diligent about your space, your energy, and your time. So how do we identify these types of magic? I definitely think I am more of a rational, logical practitioner than a magical one. I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but I am definitely going to go more to the logical side of things than immediately thinking something magical and baneful is happening. Sometimes to my detriment, but I do really think that has allowed me to build such a trust within my intuition that when something is wrong, it's wrong, and I know without a doubt that something's wrong. One of the first signs that I always notice when I have been affected by outward energy, evil eye, hexes, curses, etc., is my mental health. My mental health will plummet. My self-worth, non-existent. And that also feels very physically heavy, almost like I am being covered in a shroud of these intrusive thoughts and these just like awful feelings and views of myself. And I've been in therapy long enough to know my own patterns, my own mindset when I notice things being triggered within my anxiety, my PTSD. But when I'm feeling this plummet of mental health, it always feels very confusing. I can't determine where it's coming from, whereas normally I can pinpoint, and my therapist can pinpoint kind of what's going on, why we're having this sort of reaction, what's happening. When I'm dealing with something that is from an outside source, it feels like an internal battle. It doesn't feel like I am fighting something that is coming from my own mind and my own heart and my own emotions. And it feels really, really hard to come out of. And then there are physical signs, a lot of accidents. I'm talking like abnormally clumsy, hitting your head, stubbing your toe, dropping things, breaking things, just a complete influx of inconvenient accidents. And if you're just specifically kind of experiencing these really inconvenient, just clumsy accidents, sometimes that could be the work of a jinx. And jinxes can really just be like dick moves, really inconvenient. When that is combined with other things that might indicate that there's more going on. These physical symptoms can even manifest as sudden illness with no cause. Now, with that being said, if you are having physical symptoms of any kind, please go see your healthcare provider. 9 times out of 10, it is probably something explainable and treatable. And if something really serious is actually going on, you don't want to let that fall to the wayside. So check with your doctor first. But if we've exhausted all possibilities, we can sometimes often attribute these physical symptoms to the works of a curse or hex or evil eye. This can manifest as sudden aches and pains in random areas of the body, sore throat, extreme fatigue. So like I said, if we've exhausted all possibilities medically, this can definitely be an indicating sign that something else is going on. So when I start to experience all of these things combined, physical ailments, mental health issues, just being extremely clumsy and having the most outlandish accidents and things happening to me that make no sense at all, that is kind of when I turn to spirit. I will ask my spirit team and my ancestors to show me signs, specifically in dream form or with one of our preferred communication methods that we've kind of established together. Bird divination is one of those methods. I have talked about bird divination a plethora of times on all of my platforms, and it is one of my preferred and most direct forms of communication from spirit. I use it every day in my practice, and the 2 times in my craft that I've really felt affected by some sort of baneful magic, I would notice a specific bird showing up at my feeder all of a sudden, especially in this area, and that is a brown-headed cowbird. Brown-headed cowbirds are known as bullies of the feeder. They will knock other birds off, take food from them, they will jump on them, push them down, and they are actually responsible for the extinction and endangerment of various species of birds. They symbolize negativity, the siphoning of energy, and they're known to be brood parasites. What brood parasite birds do is they go to various bird nests wherever they can find them, really. They will take over the nests, knock out all the eggs from the birds that are living in the nest, and lay their own eggs. To top it off, they abandon their young. They leave the eggs for someone else to take care of. They abandon all responsibility and accountability for them, and they let someone else take care of them. And that is always the bird that spirit uses with me to communicate that something is severely off. Oftentimes when I know that I'm being affected by something, I will repeatedly hear someone's name in my head. I will read it, I will see it on signs. It's just everywhere. I'll start dreaming of the person or persons involved, even just specifically for evil eye as well. I have dreamt about people I've never seen before, but I know are like a harm to me or don't have like positive thoughts of me. So sometimes in moments like that, I don't even recognize the person or the name that I'm hearing. This is just an amazing gift that spirit has done for me to communicate with me and to help me combat these things when they do happen. And more often than not, within the dream itself, I will also see objects or things that may have led up to this occurring or specific moments in time. I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but this helps me really know how to combat it and where to begin. Obviously, we can be biased and emotionally invested in things at times, but at some point, the communication and the signs just become undeniable. And me being this like really logical, rational person who's like, oh, it's probably this, it's probably nothing. Being able to receive these consistent signs straight to my face, like it does get undeniable at some point, and it's really hard to argue against it. So asking your spirit team and your ancestors to help you through it and to guide you is one of the best things that you can do in the beginning. See how they communicate with you and how they show up for you, and they'll help you through it. You can also do physical tests and divination to kind of identify these sort of energies as well. One of the physical methods that I really like to use is the match test. I really don't know where the match test originated. I learned it from a friend of mine and it has not let me down since. For the match test, all you're going to need is a bowl of water and 2 matches. What I like to do with the match test is hold the 2 matches in my palms and really just pray over them. Just ask for guidance, ask them to guide me in the right direction, to show me and unveil what is really going on. Once I have sat with them for some time and really just set my intentions with them, I will light both of the matches and throw them in the water. Now there's going to be various outcomes to this test. I'm going to talk about 3 of them specifically. One of them is if your matches do not touch at all. If your matches don't touch, that's a good sign. It means that nobody is really trying to harm you or sending you anything. It's probably something else that's affecting it, maybe just a string of bad luck, but it's usually something mundane that is going to just gradually reverse on its own. The second outcome to look for is if your matches touch, but they do not cross. If your matches touch, but do not cross, that usually indicates that something was attempted, but it was unsuccessful or is minimally affecting you. What you're really going to be looking for is if your matches cross. If your matches cross, that usually indicates that there is a tie that has been made or a hit made upon you, and it's something external that is influencing the situation. Now, once I'm done with my match test, I like to drop something on it to kind of neutralize the energy. I usually use rue, which is really good for counteracting hexes and curses, but you can use salt as well. And then I like to confirm with divination afterwards using my tarot deck. Some of the questions I like to ask after doing the match test with my tarot deck is really questions about the individual or individuals that are involved. How many, physical characteristics of them, what areas of my life is this energy affecting the most, and what was the reasoning behind it. The second physical test I like to use is a folk method using an egg. This divination method is not to be confused with an egg cleanse or a limpia. A limpia is very specific to Latino culture and a very specific ritualistic practice. If you do come across that in your research, that is not the same thing as what I am talking about. So just be aware that they are two different things. This method of divination is one that I have utilized specifically in New England folk magic, and it is often called a Venus glass. The reason it is called a Venus glass was because before the rise of the witch craze and the fear surrounding witchcraft, it was often used to divine and determine someone's husband and what their occupation would be. And because Venus is the planet of love, and this divination method was traditionally used in specifically finding someone's love, it was given the name the Venus glass. With the rise in fear of witchcraft and the witch trials occurring in New England, this method was kind of adapted and used to determine whether or not malefic magic had been done. This method of divination is done by holding the egg in the palm of your hand and really focusing your energy into it, and similar to the matches, asking for things to be unveiled and shown to you. The egg is then cracked and the yolk separated from the white. The white of the egg is then dropped into water. Now, when this was used in love divination, they would look for specific shapes in the egg white that would symbolize a lover's occupation, whether or not someone would be a widow or whether they would marry at all. When it was used to determine ill intent, they would look for a couple different things, usually shapes of like really sharp spikes or blood spots, things like that. When I did my most recent Venus glass divination, the egg white dropped in the water, and sure enough, it was covered in probably about 5 to 10 blood spots. That's never happened to me, but naturally I said, okay, we have some work to do. Now, when combating this sort of magic, there's a lot of things that we can do. One of the things I really like to do is a return to sender spell. You don't always have to do this. You can do a transmutation spell if you want, but if I know specifically that someone has created this tie with me energetically, and it does depend on what I've seen and kind of what I've uncovered about the situation, but if I know that someone has created this specific tie with me that I am trying to sever, right, I am just going to send it back. Return to senders are considered baneful magic. The reason I like to do them is because it's just giving that energy back. Somebody's putting it out there, I'm just giving it back. Another reason I really like them is because if you don't have all the information that you need and you are really just unsure of where all of this energy is coming from, you can send it back specifically. If the person you're sending it to didn't do anything to you, then nothing's gonna happen. I feel like it's kind of a win-win outcome for everybody, because if the person didn't do it, then okay, nothing to worry about. If they did, then that's on them. And that's kind of how I set up my baneful protections too. Baneful magic isn't really something that I think is at the forefront of my practice outside of the realm of protection. Most of my protections are baneful protections, and if somebody's gonna try something, then that's on them at that point. So that's kind of my thought process when it comes to approaching the situation with baneful magic. I am just going to send back what you sent to me. I will not give you any more of my time, my energy, and my spirit. One of the folk methods that I like to utilize in situations like this that I have talked about on this channel before is taking a thread to it. I've talked about it on this channel and my Instagram and TikTok before, and the act of taking a thread to it is a fantastic way to counteract ill will, curses, hexes, and the evil eye. This folk method is very specific to my Scottish and Irish ancestry, and when believed that you have succumbed to ill will, malefica, evil eye, it was very common for a red thread to be taken to the affected area, to the person, to the animal, to absorb and counteract the curse. After some time passes, the thread is then cut up into pieces, symbolizing cutting these energetic ties, and then it is burned or buried. This would be thought to counteract the Drogshuil, or the uncanny eye in Scottish lore, or pies hogs, which have various meanings in Irish lore. They can symbolize a hex, a superstition, or just a charm. Another folk method that I really like to use is humming the alphabet or your name. You will do this as you also write it down on a piece of paper. It is then covered in holy water or protection oil, something that you've crafted to neutralize that energy, and then it is burned. This most recent time that I was affected by this outward energy, I found a dead bird on my porch. It was on my back porch, probably like second step down. It was really weird. It felt very ominous just because it wasn't attacked. It didn't look messed with at all, actually. It was, it looked like a taxidermy bird, actually. And its eyes were open, and it felt very, very ominous. In Irish lore, to find an unexpected dead animal on your land, especially near the home, is a direct symbol of malefica or ill will, evil doing. To counteract this, the animal is brought to an area where 2 or more lands meet together. This could be the edge of a property line, a state line, a crossroads, and this will rebound the curse similarly to a return to sender spell. The final thing I really like to focus on in situations like this is a personal uncrossing ritual within myself and within my space. I am not going to go into the details of my uncrossing rituals personally for my own safety and well-being. The main focus, though, is to really just cut all ties that have been made with you, all magic that has been done on you without your permission, just like cutting it off. Now, I am not doing all of these things in one day. A lot of these things, quite frankly, I like to do more than once. I spend days ensuring that it is all handled, taken care of, and combated. I'll repeat these remedies and do them as often as I need to until I start to feel this wheel shifting and the energy subsiding, until the energy is fully cleared. At that point, I will focus on really heavy protections for myself, my home, and my family. Because a lot of the time, more often than not, these things can also affect others in the household if someone's not very precise or is a little sloppy with their aim. And from there, it is all spiritual hygiene. It is keeping up with your protections, your cleansing, your energetic boundaries each and every day, and the upkeep of your wards, and really just ensuring that you and your space are energetically guarded and protected at all times. All right, magical beings, I hope that this video was helpful. It is in no way meant to cause fear or paranoia. Approach everything with practicality, certainty, and strength, and be as knowledgeable as you can. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.